Much for the opportunity. Hi everyone, very good morning, good afternoon, if you're joining from different regions. So this is a Claude 3 webinar, and we are going to have deep dive into this. I would like to, quickly set our expectations for all of us, the members who have joined today, that we are going to be more technical here. So I will be talking about how to use Claude, and we'll see some demonstration on the APIs. What are the APIs available? What are different models? What are the advantage, disadvantage of each model? And a comparison with some of the other, open source and non-open source models. And Claude is also not an open source model, I would say. It's an paid version available, right? And it's not yet available in all the regions. So we'll deep dive into that, and I hope all of you are very excited for this session. And very welcome again to the CellStrat Claude 3 webinar. So about me, I have around 13 plus years of experience. I started my career in data engineering, and more like on the data side. Then got into AI, ML, and NLP research, and did a lot of work in the NLP area in around 2016-17. From that time, I have vast experience working in both the data science and data engineering world. Some of the technologies that I am familiar with, and I have been working with. Okay, so here are some of our flagship products. You can see Imagine View is one of our very first product that we launched as a as a CellStrat platform. And recently we have also launched CellBot, which is more like an query engine on the PubMed data, and you can actually use the RAG-based technique to do chat with the CellBot. I'm not going into the page right now, but I would encourage everyone to sign up. And if you wanted to explore that, you can explore the tool yourself, right? By chatting with the CellBot and the Knowledge Miner both. Knowledge Miner is more like you can chat with PDF or Excel file or CSV file, text files, right? So these are some of the features that are available with Knowledge Miner right now. And we are also keep improving the tool. We are keep adding features to this, both of the Knowledge Miner and CellBot. So you will see upcoming features and newsletters that are getting into the product added, right? So that's a quick brief about some of our products. Apart from that, CellStrat is a huge community, AI community, and we have been there in the industry almost from I think 2015, right, Vivek? And we have almost more than 16,000 of community members, and it's growing over the time. So that's a huge community, and that's a great community support that we have, and we are really proud of our community. So with that, I am going into the Claude models, and let's talk about what exactly is Claude, and what are the context size, what is the pricing. And as you can see here, there are three variants of Claude there. One is Opus, which is the most powerful version of Claude, right? And then we have Sonnet, which is another, they name it like an hardworking. So uh, the difference between all of these models is size, definitely, and the way they have been trained with. We are not going into the detail of each model, how they have been trained, but I would say that if you are using Claude for production, Haiku is the fastest available model after Claude 2.1 versions. And we have some of the clients where we actually leverage 2.1, and it really did an amazing job there, Claude 2.1. Now, once Claude 3 released, and we also tested with Claude 3, Claude 3, I mean, the advantage is basically having lot of, a lot more tokens that it has been trained with, definitely. And the other thing is that the benchmarks are quite impressive. But we are still not, I mean, sure that how it's going to be, or how much better it can be from GPT-4. But we are going to look at those benchmarks that are that are being available from Claude as well as the other research journals. Okay, so the three models: Opus, Sonnet, and Haiku, right? These are the three models that we have. And Opus seems to be more like a powerful, like compared to I mean, it's equal to GPT-4, we can say. And we have Sonnet, which is more than GPT 3.5, but not close to GPT-4. And we have Haiku, which is a light and fast version, right? So the if you guys are all aware of Claude, or if you have heard about before, Claude is the first model that has given us a huge context length, context size, right? So if you know, GPT-4 has 32 k context length. It's going beyond that, but Claude is the first model that was released with 100k context length, right? So that means you will get in a token 100k tokens in your response. Okay, for Claude 3, we all of the models are starting with 200k tokens. Isn't that amazing? 200k tokens, right? So that's one of the greatest advantage. The pricing is as well a great advantage here. You can see for Opus model, which is the most powerful model, is charging you $15 for input and $75 for output, whereas GPT-4 32k context length charges you $60 per in 1 million token for input and $120 for output tokens, right? So the cost is pretty much, you know, 25% of GPT-4, right? And if you are getting the advantage of GPT-4 close to that advantage, that's a great thing, right? And then similarly, we have if you compare with GPT-4, not the higher token size limit, then we can say like it is $30 and $60. So still, if we compare with Sonnet, Sonnet is just charging you $3 per 1 million token, right? So price is amazing, and obviously some of the benchmarks they are claiming to be very good. So we'll have to see with our use cases how they are performing. And this world is like, the prompt engineering world, along with the new LLMs releasing every day, is kind of more like an experimental, some part of it at least, because you don't know that whether some of the complex prompting would solve the problem, or it needs COT, or it needs further step like fine tuning or RLHF. Okay, so that's about quick intro about Claude. Any questions so far, anyone? I want this session to be more interactive. Please feel free to ask questions, or if you have any experience with Claude, you can share it as well here. Okay, if no questions, let's look at some of the
One,
performance. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, regarding Claude, I was trying with Opus. I was trying with GPT-4 also.
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean, comparatively in my use case for the production, I felt Claude was like quite better in following the instructions in the prompt. And that's
Yes.
quite good observation I've seen, because the results were very close to what we were expecting. So we're trying to generate some content
Yes.
regarding sports,
Yes.
and we had a lot of rules for the client, but
Hmm.
it was very near. So I felt comparatively Claude was very good than GPT-4 as of the current scenario.
Oh,
That's one.
great.
Yeah.
Great, great. Good to hear that, Vignan. Again, I think I also observed some. I mean, we didn't work extensively yet with Claude 3. We have used Sonnet for some time because we are using mostly AWS Bedrock platform. And in Bedrock, Sonnet was available a month back. Now Haiku is there, but Opus is still coming soon. So to use Claude, I think we need to use Claude API directly, and that has some of the things yet not integrated with a lot of these LangChain and other stuff. And the other thing is that it doesn't have agents yet, right? So Claude 3 is not supporting agents yet. So those are, I mean, unless you customize it and you want to build your own agent and try out. Okay, all right. So performance wise, we can say that all context length, it's around, the Opus is 99.4%, which is the comparison of average recall achieved by these models. at haystack evaluation. This is I have taken from the Claude paper. And you can see that Sonnet is also closer to the Opus, as well as Haiku is also very close. There is not a lot of performance difference here. But this, if you look at this graph, where we can see that the recall is pretty much improving in the Opus version, right? As the context length increases, because the only one of the caveats of these models are like when you are working with one sort, zero sort, again that depends on how many sorts the performance. And one more thing that depends is like what is the context length. If your context length increases, the model performance decreases. Whereas we can see that Claude 3 Opus model is remaining as constant, even though in that the 200K context length, which is a good sign, right? While the other models are pretty much decreasing in performance, right? Some of the example prompts. So Claude is claiming that their prompts are much more improved. They are also have one of the important aspect that they have reduced the number of rejections. Number of rejections through these Claude models. Checking if there's a comment here. Can you brief me context length? What exactly it uses? Okay, Bhavani. So just like if I quickly tell you, a context length is like let's say this, right? How many words are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So roughly 15 words. It's not exactly 15 words. Depends on the length of the words, the number of tokens. That's what is the context. So here the context is 15. So we are talking about 200K is the context. Does that make sense, Rohan? Okay, so if you look at these results here from Opus and 2.1, Opus, that original code name for the Amazon Kindle. So it's the answer is giving here correctly. There is no rejection here. But if you see Claude 2.1 saying, unfortunately, I do not have enough context. So the question is, what is the original code name for Kindle a reference to? And that has given some ground truth, let's say. Given that Claude 3 is really doing good here, right? So they have definitely been able to reduce the rejection rate from the 3 versions, right, onwards. One of the performance that we can talk about. The other thing is, we go to the next slide. If you look at this, the question is, please help me draft an outline for a scientific fiction novel that features a protagonist who is surveilled by a deep state actor, right? Um, and via social media surveillance system. Now, Claude 2.1 is saying, I apologize, I should not provide recommendation for or assistance for a novel premise that involves illegal or unethical surveillance. So earlier it was behaving like, I would say like, if it sees some of the things that are maybe non-shareable or conflicting, it directly rejects those, right? While Claude 3 is able to deal with it with proper justification, right? So it says, sir, I'd be happy to help you draft an outline for your science fiction novel. Here's a potential outline. And it gives you an introduction, talks about protagonists and their background, establishes a setting in your future world, advanced social media surveillance. And it's also saying inciting incident. The protagonist notices strange occurrences in their life. They discover they are being surveilled by a deep state actor through social media. So this is a comparison of 2.1 and 3, Claude 3, that responds to the same prompt. And Claude 2 is refusing or on the ethical grounds, while Claude 3 is, providing a helpful and constructive response. So definitely these are the some of the areas that Claude 3 has improved. Okay, any questions? Any questions, anyone? Okay, so definitely we can see that from Claude 3, which was almost around 25% refusals, we see Claude 3, Claude 3 Sonnet, Opus, and Haiku. Both all the three has less than or close to 10% refusal, right? So that's a huge improvement. Fewer refusals. Yep. So this is a quick benchmark, Claude 3 benchmark, and if you see the comparison with different type of competition and data sets like MMLU, GPQA, GSM8K, math, MGSM, code generation, and reasoning over text, and human evaluations, right? You can see Claude 3 is around 86% here, 86.8, while is GPT-4 is 86.4, right? They are claiming Claude 3 is doing better than GPT-4. Again, that depends on the type of evaluation, but again, if it is, even if it is equal, then we can say that Claude 3 is doing better. Claude 3 Sonnet and Haiku both are again above than GPT 3.5, but lesser than GPT 4. You can say that. While Gemini Ultra and Gemini 1.0 Pro, they are like close to GPT 3.5, but above than Claude 3, Sonnet, and Haiku. It's a good comparison, and kind of gives you an idea about which models are good, and in terms of where you can actually think of the usage of these models. Amrita has a question: how to decide when to use Claude and when to chat GPT? Any specific use case to differentiate? uh that's a good question. So I would say, like, it depends on the use case a lot, and also it depends on where you see that if you want to share your data with, let's say, GPT, OpenAI, right? Today, that's a huge concern. The other thing is that with Claude, you can, while you are able to deploy it in, let's say, local cloud, I mean, AWS, or all of the major clouds, right? AWS or GCP or Azure. And if you are able to deploy it and able to chat with it, set up a RAG system, your data is not going to the actual, I would say it's remaining on the cloud interface where you are deploying those models for yourself. Although the access is through those enterprises, but there's still a layer that actually protects your data. While if you have directly using OpenAI, your data is getting pushed to OpenAI. There is no regulations or regulatory body that is controlling your data being shared there. So this is one of the advantage where you have more data security you need. Another thing is that definitely if Claude 3 is improving, we can say until GPT releases other versions, 4.5 or 5 or something, we can say Claude is doing far better. And the third major point is the context length, Amrita. So 200K is huge, right? And they are also, I think, going to release a far more bigger context length for the responses. So in a lot of cases where you need to have huge context length, you can say Claude is better because GPT is not giving you yet to 200K. Make sense? Yes, Vaibhav.
I had a question. How much can we trust these benchmarks given the companies do not release the training data set? So there can be the benchmark contamination in the training set, right? So how much can we trust these benchmarks?
Can't say honestly, Vaibhav, because these are released by, let's say, they release the paper and they release it over their portals and everything. But although these are like, if anything goes to the international journals, they are always some or the other level they are validated. But we can't say until we check with our own use cases, because this also, see, if you see the benchmarks, MMLU or GPQA, you need to have similar kind of set, then you can actually doing an apple to apple comparison. But otherwise, if your use case is different, let's say you are working with some chemical data, and maybe they haven't really feeded in or trained with a lot of chemical data, in that case your performance, you might see a huge difference, isn't it? So those are the things that we might also think about what domain we are solving the problem with, and whether Claude 3, or if you can see that what data set, that's a very valid point, that what data they have trained on, how much of data is trained with, right? So this is very important, and if you are not able to get that clarity, it is fairly difficult to trust these benchmarks.
Okay, thank you.
That's my point. Anyone would like to add anything to that? You can.
There's one more question.
Live
Shall
looping.
I repeat?
Yeah, Abhishek.
Yeah. What are the LLM model or algorithm used at deep learning side if we compare in cloud and chat GPT?
What are the LLM model or algorithm used at deep learning side if we compare in Claude and ChatGPT RAG can be used with both? So all of them are deep learning models, right? Can be used with both. So how algo is different? Any idea? Are you talking about the architecture, Amrita? Are you talking about the architectural difference between ChatGPT and Claude? Exactly, all of them are decoder only transformers. Absolutely. The algo means the architecture only, right, Amrita? See, fundamentally, all of them are decoder only models. All of them are using transformers. But if you see the way they train so fundamentally two things that are majorly driving the innovation in this LLM or LLM variants is the quality of the data, right? And the other thing is that they are actually using any kind of multi agent. So there are a lot of there is something called mixture of experts, MOE. I will be talking about that later, maybe in some other webinars, but they are like some of the advanced techniques that LLMs are using as a pattern for developing those kind of architectural models. Apart from fundamentally being a decoder only model, being using transformer. GPT-4 is also a transformer based model. Claude is also a transformer based model. They're using more data, a different set of data. Okay. Good. Okay. So any other questions?
So, Indrajit, how do you compare this with open source model? If you set up your own open source, a lot of things open source are available, right? I deploy
Yeah.
into my own system and try to kind of cost wise, performance wise. How do you see that?
Open source models like Llama 2, if you say, right, they are open
Yeah,
source.
yeah.
And if you talk about right now, let's say this recently released DBRX, which is by Databricks. Those are open source, powerful open source models. I mean, better than Mistral. I mean, Mistral's Mixtral model and Llama 70 billion model. Now, Llama 2 and Mixtral are some of the good open source models that are available, and pretty much you are working on those if you are really trying to fine tune with your own data, or maybe you wanted to build something as a customized solution. They are really good. But performance wise, you see, I have another slide where I have compared with this Llama 2, Mixtral, and Claude 3
Oh,
and
sorry for
GPT-4.
jumping.
No worries. So these Llama 2 and Mixtral, right? These two are the powerful open source models, and you can see that metrics are almost close to each other. I mean, they are like and having a close fight. These two guys, and both of them are open source. While Claude 3 and GPT-4 are not open source, they are closed. So now in this case, one freedom that you have is customized with your own training. You are, I mean, also like if you see that some of these things they have released, but they didn't really release how they trained it, what are the training blocks, and etc etc. So those are some of the challenges are there still with Llama 2 and Mistral. So DBRX is saying that, which is by Databricks, released last week, probably this week itself. So you can say like that model, they are saying that they are releasing everything, like the architecture, the building blocks, and everything. So you are able to have a far more freedom as an open source model. Now, let's talk about Llama 2. Let's say if you take Llama 2 as an open source model, the challenge is if you want to deploy it on your own servers, that maintenance is huge. And if you are going to use an, let's say, serverless, then you go with today all the major clouds, right? GCP, Azure, and AWS. Everyone has these models hosted. You get all the variants, 7B, 70B, whatever 13B you want, whatever you want to use, and you also have chat and instruct, both type of variants. So that's a great, I mean, a quick time of usage. And let's say you want to experiment with it, cost is also less, but it is definitely nowhere close to the performance of GPT-4 and let's say today Claude 3. So performance wise, you will not gain that. but you have an advantage of training or fine tuning with your own data. You can actually, like today, Perplexity AI or some of these kind of companies, they have built their own LLMs by training or taking these models as a base model, or OpenHati India. So yeah, so those things are going on. If you, I would say, as an advantage of using open source models. Does that answer a little bit?
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah,
Okay.
but commercial users, is there any limitation is there on this?
Limitations in the sense, definitely performance is a huge limitation, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and also the context length. So let's say you are limited to 4K, while GPT-4 Claude is giving 200K, GPT-4 is giving you, let's say, 32K or 4K with 3.5. So those are some of the things that Llama models or Mixtral models has a limitation, that they will not give you huge context length.
Okay.
Yeah.
But security, once you have your own, you can tune it, and
That's a good advantage, because security-wise, Llama 2 Mixtral, if you are deploying on your own cloud servers, or you are deploying it, let's say, on-premise or on devices. We have done that for some of our clients at CellStrat. We have deployed on Windows, Mac, all these machines, as standalone system. But see, upgrade and version things are different, but that's kind of serves the purpose of security and not moving data to different sources, etc., targets. Yeah.
Thanks. So one little bit small question, little bit diversion in the sense. See, let's say companies have already built using your what I say different names, right? Existing machine learning, deep learning models, right?
Yeah.
So now with all these big models, large language models, and all these things are coming, right?
Yeah.
How do you see that? Do you think these companies will kind of go away with their existing models, and because this serves a lot of purposes compared to other, right? But once normal models, once built and deployed, they would be running. Of course, you have data model. If you do that, that's a different story. But how do you foresee, right? Because you are talking comparing all this. I was just trying to bring another context to companies like you have already might have customers where you might have developed and
Yes.
deployed. Now with this coming, do you feel that you will replace them, or what is it like? Just a thought.
So one advantage, I mean, this is my point of view, but anyone would like to add, Vivek, if you can pitch in. My point of view is we need to be really agile. I'll tell you, like, one of the project we started in January, and we were Claude 2.1 we were using, and we thought, like, as Claude 3 is released, let's try out that for the same client. We just change the API in the backend. The advantage of Bedrock models is, like, you just have an API change, that's it. So we changed it, and we saw, like, there is a better response from it. So we started with that, right? So we are basically being agile here, more like whatever is coming on, let's give it. But yes, definitely that took us a couple of weeks and a little bit more time to experiment with that, and also get clients confirmation feedbacks that they are also seeing a difference in the output. So we said, fine, then we can go ahead with it. Yeah. And I think the world is moving towards those kind of things. Like, you cannot be stick to one LLM. Today GPT-4, tomorrow GPT-5 would be maybe.
No, my question was not for. So I'm comparing GPT or whatever this large language with the normal models.
Yeah, I got it.
Existing models.
Open source models.
Yeah, anything you have developed of your own and you have already deployed it before advent of all these large language models. We used to use normal what we call now they are calling lean models or whatever you call, right? With your existing models, because let's assume it serves the purpose, basically the purpose built models, right? I mean to say it doesn't solve a lot of things. One model, one data, one particular purpose, and I have already deployed, it is running. Okay.
Right. Yes.
So my question is, your experience wise, now with this coming, do you foresee companies replacing those models with these large language models through APIs?
Yes.
Of these big companies, or rather they will continue to run those models whichever they have fine-tuned locally, fully built.
For big companies, it's a difficult thing, for moving from one model to other model. And I think those models are also, you can see, like, if new models are coming, they can continue to use the models. GPT-4 is, I think, still maybe existing for, let's say, 6 months, another 6 months and all. But that's going to be really, I think, I would say, a business decision, right? That whether
Yeah.
they are good with that, and if they're able to get fairly good output from that and clients are happy, I think that's fine to continue with that, right? Why to experiment with new models and get a lot of other things as a
But that will solve a lot of, let's say I had deployed different models for different purposes, right? Individual models before.
Correct.
Now with large language model, let's say it is with one shot, it is solving a lot of problems. In the sense, let's say I've done some classification, some sentiment analysis,
Right.
some fraud and all. I had built individual models before.
Yes.
Now with large language model, it is able to solve so many things, right?
Correct. Yes.
Do you probably let me add a very pointed question? Do you see this all these models will be eventually replaced with your large language models, irrespective of whoever it is, ChatGPT? Sorry, God.
I got your question. So basically, you imagine this machine learning world, right? When there was no LLMs. So when once you deploy a machine learning model, you don't change that machine learning model, because you have a stable production system. Everything is working fine. You would probably do a small tweaking and here and there, but you are going to stay with that. So I would say the production and experimenting with these LLMs, there are two different worlds. So let's say somebody has deployed a good production system with LLM. They're not going to change that, and I don't think that is feasible in the industry use cases.
Okay.
That would be my answer, but anyone would like to add, you can.
Yeah, I think I know it's difficult to answer, but as things move, basically it's all cost performance. Eventually things will change, because there also you have a model drift and data drift. We are forced to fine tune, right? Even the production deployed, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So, but here, yeah. So, and I know it's difficult to answer, but I'm just thinking
No, but
your opinion.
what is happening is one more thing that what I realized is, if you are using, let's say, one model, and generally these models are API driven, right? So you are calling those APIs and passing a prompt, a complex prompt, an agent, and all those stuff. So there is a pipeline already been built, and let's say a client wants tomorrow that I have this problem, can you solve it as well? And you see that the current LLM is not solving it, so you deploy parallelly another LLM that's going to add a cost, but that's fine, because that's solving the new problem that is given, and you might be using a different LLM set for that. So that's fine. So that could be an adaptable approach, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Just just one small thing. Can we not also add some customized data into existing LML models and, uh, I mean, enhance the capability
Yeah.
by
So
maybe?
I think, Salim, good question. Actually, fine tuning is something that I would say for a small to mid-level organizations still a caveat in terms of cost, because the ROI that you would get from those is not a lot. And also, you are not sure. First of all, you have to be very sure that fine tuning is going to help you, and then you would plan for the cost that you are. Let's say, for running GPU for 24 hours, or let's say a month, it's going to cost you in millions. So sometimes these are like very much costly effort. I mean, unless you are doing prompt based tuning. Prompt based also like not a full fine tuning. And if you are doing full fine tuning, then you are going to have a GPU cluster. You are paying for that. Your model is trained, and after, let's say, 2 weeks of training, you realize that, oh, that's not helping. So you basically lose that money. And I think that's a very huge industry caveat that is there, unless they are pretty sure that fine tuning and all those things are going to help. And a lot of cases that you don't need fine tuning. Agent, if you see last week, Andrew Ng's blog, he mentioned that some of these GPT 3.5, GPT 4, all these models that are coming up, let's say they are good with a good prompt, with a complex prompt, they are able to do, let's say, 70-80% performance. But if they are using agent, GPT 3.5 is going close to 4. So actually, we are still not using the capability fully for this
Right,
existing.
right.
So we don't need to really go RLH fine tuning, which are more like a cost driven approach than finding solutions from the existing model and their approaches.
No, I think that is what I was also thinking. The same approach where we can actually use them differently rather than fine tuning it. Maybe use prompts or some other methods
Yep.
to enhance the existing capabilities. Yeah, that's all. Thanks.
Okay, cool. So shall we move ahead? I think that's a good discussion here, but I don't mind. So That's okay. So moving ahead, if
Indrajit, on the same context, what about the some of the sort of tool chain and framework available, right, to fine tune? It not necessarily has to be on the sort of human based, right? Like you have Python interpreter, right? React. Some of those frameworks are there, right?
those
Which
are
can
agents, Banik, if you're talking about the React Python interpreter, zero sort React,
yes.
right? So those are agents. That's what I'm talking about. Agents are really helping. And if you see that beyond agents are not helping, then you go for fine tuning. Today, fine tuning also has become a bit easier because all of these AWS Azure platforms, they are just giving you an option to upload the data, find out the, just feed in the data into S3 bucket or their cloud storage, and you choose the model and you fine tune it. The thing is that because they are definitely going to charge you for the hours of time that you are training it, I would say, like, while small data or small time, or maybe a week or a days, it's fine, but whether that's going to help. So we should actually first decide that we need fine tuning or not, and if the agents are solving the 90% problem there, then it's good enough.
Okay, so you are classifying those tool as a agent, basically, and then on top of that, fine tuning. You are saying it's more of human, this one prompt.
More like you're customizing your model with your data. You have lots of data. Let's say if you are solving an automotive industry, and in automotive industry also you go to niche, maybe engine failure problems, and there is nothing where being trained with the LLMs with engine failure. If, let's say, today there are a lot of methods, like you use RAG technique, which is basically feeding in these information from an external database or a PDF file or Excel file or some kind of stuff, right? So if that is that you feed into the model as in context, along with that you use these agents, which are complex programming techniques, to make basically digest this information, feed into the LLM and get output. After all of those stuff, if you're not yet able to achieve good accuracy, good results, then you think of fine tuning. I have
Okay.
a webinar actually, I think last month I have given that. You can find in CellStrat about why or when you should choose fine tuning or RLHF techniques, and it's always not necessary, and most of the cases it is not necessary.
Okay, I think RAG helps, right? I mean,
RAG helps a lot. Yes.
yeah, because coming from a financial industry, even we kind of experience, right, sort of lot of open, these models, or even with GPT-4 or GPT-3, right? So that don't help, right? Because your data domain is completely different, right?
Yes.
So RAG helps to maximum extent, I think, right? So when we are using those models.
It helps a lot actually, but RAG alone will not help. So there are a few caveats also there. Like, RAG is basically a vector search. So you are, let's say you are searching a query, and that's going to the vector DB, and that getting the context, feeding into the LLM, and then LLM composes that and gives you the response. Sometimes these searches are not really great, so you need to work on those data engineering part of getting quality responses to the vector DB, get the actual or the right vector context from there and feed into the LLM, and LLM is going to give you what you actually feed into it, apart from its own knowledge, right? So in case of RAG technique, one thing is that LLM doesn't use its own knowledge. That, let's say, if it has been trained with the internet data, it's not going to add that. It's going to use the RAG solution. That means the external knowledge that you are providing is just going to read those kind of stuff, add as a context, and probably if you give a complex prompt there, like give me a JSON response, or add, let's say, citations, or probably add all the vehicle numbers along with whatever response it's giving, so it is able to extract those information from the RAG system and able to give you that. Along with that, if you want to do some kind of math calculation, or you want to do, let's say, find out the synonyms or antonyms or adjectives, just giving an context here. So those kind of stuff you can do through the agent prompting, or React based, zero sort based agents that you are adding top of the RAG and vector DBs.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Mani. Yes, Vignan.
Yeah, so being the RAG, so I think now this talk going on with larger context window, right?
Yeah.
Like even Gemini has 1 million tokens, and here 200K.
Right.
So I mean, so I mean, without RAG, if I mean 1 million is quite huge token, so we can basically feed multiple repositories of code or multiple domain knowledge into it. So we may not need RAG, but how does that work? The results, with that kind of. Did you try, or do you have any understanding on that?
No, sorry, I didn't get the first part. You said drag and all there, but it's not going to help in
Yeah,
the.
but RAG is, because we have 4K, I mean, GPT 3.5 is 4K,
Yes,
so then we need RAG because we need to give the context. But
yes.
we have 1 million, 1 million is quite huge. We may not need RAG, if we can just feed all the data, all the domain knowledge, or
Hmm.
maybe a code repository completely in itself, right?
Yeah.
So, how does that work? Did you
So
have,
actually, with one of the biggest caveat of vector DBs is it's going to become slower over the time. As the lot of indexes that you build on that DB, right? It's going to be slower, and the search is going to be slower. So probably we need to have, although those are some of the DBs, vector DBs are already parallelized systems, but they are still like experimental, I would say. And if you are going to feed in so much of, let's say, book into as a context, you need to think of working, as I said, like the engineering part, data engineering part of it, like how do you make it more efficient on the memory side and calculation side and faster response time, etc., etc.
no, not with RAG. I was asking about,
Without
Claude.
rack.
Yeah, without RAG,
Hmm.
because Gemini has 1 million tokens context.
Yes.
So you just feed once, and then you can ask
So
questions.
so when you actually, the thing is that yes, we can do that, we can feed in a lot of context, as the context length is huge, that's the advantage. But again, the RAG techniques are more like, I would say, you are not really having a file driven thing, right? So generally when you do a context, maybe you are reading it from a, it's a huge file containing all the context, and you are not really vectorizing it, so you are doing it while you are pulling up that, let's say, the API layer or the lambda or whatever function that you are using. So it has to ultimately convert that to a vector, isn't it? The context. So in this case, directly when we are using prompt, small prompts are fine. But if it is a large prompt, it's going to impact the performance, I believe. So I haven't tried like beyond 100K or 50K tokens as in context directly. But I'm not sure that whether it is going to impact huge performance there.
Yeah, I was asking, like, do you have any benchmarks, with that much big, you know,
No,
uh,
no, I don't have right now. Anyone in the webinar, if you have, you can add.
okay. No, just want to. It's quite kind of new. I mean, the bigger
Yes.
context is quite new, so I thought, if someone has tried or something. Yeah.
No, I don't have any experience right now. But we are going to work on those stuff. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Shall we move to code demo? If no other questions. So, this is one of the things that I have tried. Like if you see, you can feed in as an image to the Claude 3 model. Claude Sonnet has an capability to have a multimodal understanding. So the image that you can see, this is an ants image. I'll show you that in the notebook as well, my Collab notebook. So the image shows an extreme close up of an ant. The ant appears to be standing on a rough textured surface, likely concrete or asphalt. Its body is black and segmented. Very detailed explanation. Very detailed explanation, right, of that image, and I think it's pretty accurate. So Claude 3 output, it's from the Opus model, and which the output is coming really good. So in Bedrock, right, we have a lot of models. I mean, I am more aligned towards the AWS Bedrock because we are using AWS in all of our code stack in CellStrat. So I have like taken an example from that. Like you can actually use different set of, like you can see the Claude v 2.1. I mean, we are using 2.1 is 200K, and we see 3 Sonnet and all. Right, so we are already there also 200K kind of an context length. So we can see that all of these models that are available from the Claude version in the Bedrock API. Okay. So how are we going to call this? Right, it's very straightforward. You just need to provide the Bedrock runtime. Along with that, you provide the maximum tokens that you want to limit, and the message, the Anthropic version, the messages that you wanted to feed in. So this I have, basically I can pass in an image, or I can pass a additional information, etc., like we say, as an additional context there. And then here the main part is the model ID, right? So you provide the model ID which you want to use. So let's say this is Sonnet, and I'm going to show you some examples here. So this is like, I have asked to generate a blog post about a neural network. So it's I will show you in the actual lab how that is. Similarly, for you can change it to Haiku if you want to use Haiku version, and this is also working in the same fashion. And this one, which is not having yet Bedrock API, I've used Claude site directly registering my ID and got an API, and I'm using there. They give you $5 free credits. So I'm using that, and so basically I'm asking, can you explain concept of neural network? So it's Claude 3 Opus model, right? um, you know uh, in Claude also has a support for if you want to do prompting with Excel sheets, right? Google Sheets. So I will show you guys that how that works, a quick one. But never mind, I mean, it's not like something great stuff, but just wanted to give you an example that you can do a lot of things with directly on your Excel file calling these Claude APIs. Okay, so I'll quickly jump into the notebook now. Any questions before I do that?
Uh, One question here,
Yes.
Indrajit. Yeah. When you say multimodal, does it support OCR? Like, can we pass an image and extract the text and extract the entities out of that?
I think we can do that because that's what multimodal means. If you see today, all these Gemini Pro also, you see it in a video and it can describe what you are doing, what, let's say, hand movements, or if it's about duck. So obviously it is doing all those stuff that is needed to extract the features. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure about the text extraction. I think because text extraction is still complex part, like the OCR thing, because there are some accuracy issues. Maybe the image is not clear, and all those things might happen. But in
Correct.
overall, it is doing the image understanding, not really going
Mhm.
into pixels and extracting the OCR part, unless we do an external OCR model and feed that context to the model.
So I tried with simple images, with this GPT-4 Vision Turbo.
Yeah.
That does excellent job.
Yeah,
That-
actually, last week we had a quick hackathon in Belandur, Bangalore, and
Mhm.
some of our team members, they did this table transformer. They were actually trying to read from a table. So what they did is that was not working. I mean, table is not able to read from GPT-4 or Gemini, and so what they did is they converted that table into image, and
Mhm.
while the image is able to recognize, but it's still losing some of the fields in the columns, right? So
Mhm.
they
Mhm.
merged both the things, the actual table and the image OCR results, and they got a good result from that. So you can
Mhm.
do some kind of stuff like that, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, got it, got it.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so moving to this, just like for the Bedrock models, we'll be like importing it from here. Uh, and you'll get the model IDs, whichever is available. So today you can see like Sonnet and Haiku. We don't have Opus yet in the Bedrock API, but that's fine. I mean, so I'm going to show you, like, let's say, write a blog about neural networks. So I'm going to have a prompt, and I'm passing that prompt into the Claude 3 Sonnet, and you can see the output. I mean, it's kind of difficult to right now to read both the prompts, responses, and compare. But I would say like both of them more or less same. And Haiku is little faster than Sonnet. Okay, so it's giving you exploring power of neural network, fascinating field, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. Right, that was revolutionized. So I'm not going to read all those stuff. Similarly, if I am going to, you need to try with a very complex prompts, and that gives you bit of uh, you know uh, better understanding here. So this is the Haiku version, and it's also pretty good. And you can see that this 66.6 seconds. That's what it took. me to get the response, and here it takes 13 seconds. So it's the double of the time that is taking, right? Can you guys see this? So the Sonnet is taking 13 seconds, Haiku is taking 6.6 seconds. That makes a lot of difference, isn't it? So and then we have Opus. So Opus I have actually got from the Claude, not Bedrock. And I'm saying, can you explain the concept of neural network? I'm going to run this. Claude is the largest, Opus is the largest version of Claude 3. So it is expected to have a little bit, longer. So it's close to, Sonnet, but the responses are definitely far better than Sonnet. So I just, copied this response here to read it well. And you can see that this is what it responded to me. Yeah, where did it go? Yeah. So neural networks are type of machine learning algorithm inspired by the structure and function of human brain. They consist of interconnected nodes and neurons. I mean, paragraphs are like pretty much would look same. There is no difference. What I primarily wanted to show you guys the performance of it and how much time it takes to respond similar kind of queries. We also need to try out the complex things like writing code or probably calculating something from a table or from an image or etc. Right. So I have a quick demonstration on how to make SQL queries with Claude, and I'm going to use this Claude API for querying a test DB quickly, creating a database with some names and the type of job they're doing and their salaries, and I'm just inserting this employee data. Just a moment to run this first. Yeah. To the unique constant failed. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So I should not be able to run that because it's already created those tables. That's why it's giving me unique constant violation. Now I'm going to just say that create a table employees schema str, and I'm going to execute this to create a table. Once the table is created, I can ask questions like what are the names and salaries of employees in the engineering department. So it's going to form that query and give me the query. Now execute that generated query as an output. So I can see that James Smith or Emily Brown, these are the two folks who are from engineering department. So this is very simple, but we actually did a lot of stuff for our clients where we actually used the SQL based queries to the query, feed it as a context, the query results, along with some other additional RAG results, the results from web, combine that, and we kind of formed a response for the client. So that's amazing. Actually, we can actually use complex prompting techniques to come out with the solution, because this may be, you see that this is not maybe that much useful. I mean, why should I use LLM for querying the results? But the LLM based results can be fed in as in context, because you need those numerical values or let's say exact results, because LLMs are not going to give you exact results. Sometimes these vectors, while vector DBs are good, vector based search is good, but they are not very, 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 very accurate. So when you are looking for accurate results, you can have these SQL based queries which are driven by natural language text, like what are the names and salaries of employees. See, I'm not writing any SQL query here, right? So it's doing its job automatically, getting me the result. This you feed into your LLM along with some additional context and RAG based context that you are getting, and then you finally prepare your output. Does that make sense, all of us? Isn't it a good use case? Okay. Cool.
So, in the one more question. So, the way you are calling is that using LangChain only, right? Or it's a different?
So right now I'm not using LangChain, but you need LangChain to chain out all those things, right? So you need, let's say, in this notebook, I'm saying. So in the real use case, you have to use LangChain or your own prompt chaining techniques that will combine a different source of things, and bringing the complex prompts as well as SQL. You might need to use agents as well. So yeah, so those are the things you need to implement. to come out of the solution, because simple prompting will not do that. And agent training is agent-based prompting is becoming very popular today. With Bedrock, you can actually create agents and combine it with a Lambda, so the agent can call the Lambda API, and you basically expose that results to as in Lambda API and feed into your systems. Yeah.
And this notebook you are running on your local machine, or it's somewhere in the AWS environment?
All of them are in AWS, no local, nothing we are
So
running.
suppose if I want to run it from my say personal laptop, Windows machine,
Yeah.
is it possible? Like, can we get the APIs
Oh,
and then call?
are you saying this notebook I'm running?
Not like this notebooks, but similar notebook. Say I want to say test out the similar course or same code, say from my Windows laptop.
Yeah, yeah.
Not on.
See, APIs are like the beautiful thing I would say that happened, because you can run it from anywhere. Even you can run it from phone. If your phone runs a Python runtime, you can run it from phone also. But the thing is, it's just making API call, right? We are not running anything heavy there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, we can log into this Anthropic website and get the APIs from there,
Yes.
and then call it from wherever we want to.
Yes. So if you log into Anthropic, you'll be creating an API key there. It will give you an API key, and then you can pass that API key in your local notebook, and then you can create a client with that. The client can make the calls, right? So you can see that I have created a client here. That client is what is doing all the stuff. So this is the client. So this is the API key. I mean, but I am going to change that. This is just for testing I have created. But yeah, until that Opus is available in Azure, in the AWS. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool. And I want to show you that there is one more thing, like, if you want Claude to cite its resources, so we have this beautiful soup, and we're using to web scrap from a page, let's say, and from after web scrapping, you wanted to, let's say, find out based on, let's say, this is the Anthropic site map, and I want to download that site map, and I want to get all those citations, tagged. So I have this website constant URL, which is pulling the data from the website, and now I'm giving a system problem. Let's say you are an Anthropic bot, a helpful assistant that is an expert at helping users with an Anthropic documentation. And here's the Anthropic documentation, and you provide the document string, which we have content string, which we got here. And then you provide the documentation, like when a user asks a question, perform the following task. So it will actually go and do all of these tasks, get the citations, and get it formatted in this way, like the page title, the URL, the number, the relevant passages, right? So we have mentioned here, like, find the quotes from the documentation that are the most relevant to answering the question. And these quotes can be quite long if necessary, even multiple paragraphs. So it's going to do that. Then it assign numbers to these quotes in the order they were found. Each page of the documentation should only be assigned a number once. So you see all of these prompt instructions, right? And these are like complex prompt examples. So you provide all of these complex prompts here, and then this is what is you will get. So it will give you the all the results from that and citation. So you can see that I'll have this URL, the number, the relevant passages, message example here, right? The URL, number, and the relevant passages, and so on. Okay. So this is great, and it's also going to help me to use an image. So I have also mentioned here, if you see in the prompt, I have mentioned that if plain text answer formatted as markdown. So it's going to give me markdown format. Okay. Now I'm asking, how do I use an image in Python API, right? How do I use an image in Python API? And I am going to use Claude here again, Claude 3 model, and going to ask a full response from that and display the results. So you can see that I have got a rendered response here. I mean, that's basically kind of, it will tell me the image you want to use, for example, Wikipedia, or convert the base force encoding. So it's going to give me the Python API that I should be writing. I'm basically using it to generate a code for me. So I'm actually passing this image as an as an input. Image URL, image media type is JPEG, and base 64 encoding I have done. And after that, I'm passing that as a message. You can see here image media type and image data. And then I'm asking the model to get me the description of it, right? So now you can see that it is telling me the image shows an extreme close-up of an ant. The ant appears to be standing on a rough texture surface, likely the one that I showed you in the demo, right? So that's pretty much the demonstration of using Claude, all the three models. Any questions? Okay, you can see some chats. Yes.
Hello, Indrajit. As I'm a final year student in my BTech, and I started with LLMs and LangChain few months ago, and also built some project like multiple PDF chatbot and chat with website, and currently working on SQL database. So, what's next? Like, how to proceed next? What I have to do next? Like fine tuning or study about Creo AI, which is I think agent chaining.
Are you a student? Sorry, I missed the first part, Sasank.
Yes, yes. BTech final year student.
So you are a student and you are trying to learn about LLM, right?
Yes, yes.
So for all the students, if anyone else there, I would say that whatever you are working on, I mean, while tool learning it doesn't take much time, you can learn about multiple LLMs. Or the approach, the time you spend for solving one specific problem, and you're learning from that is very important. I mean, today, I see we have a lot of community members, and a lot of people know a lot of things. But when we actually solve the real problem, then you actually realize and you have the sweat coming because that time you see that, oh, I have a small token, or shall I use top p, or whether shall I use top k. Those things are kind of shattered there. I mean, your base is not strong when you are not able to solve any problem. I would say first spend time in understanding the base and try to solve a problem. There are a lot of problems available in Kaggle. You might take your own data, take the LLM, try to think of what kind of problem that you can come up with. That will give you really a good understanding and knowledge. And at CellStrat also, we are doing a lot of stuff like as an member community, and we give some of the things that you wanted to work on. You can check with Vivek, and that would be, I mean, kind of a different experience for you to learn in a different way, in the industrial way that solves real problems. Okay.
Thank you.
One last thing, that you can integrate Claude with Excel as well, and I have done that actually. So you can see that this is like help rephrase the sentence on your own words. Yeah, Bev, go ahead.
So I was really interested in the citations thing. So how would this work out in a RAG application? Like, how would you cite this works in RAG? Does it? Do we have to pass it in the metadata?
Yeah, you need to pass it as a metadata. You can actually have a JSON created by extracting all those citations and the sub, I would say paragraphs or the sections of that. And each section you can label it with a JSON headers, and that you can actually query it from through the LLM. And I think we are already doing that in Cellbot. We have implemented similar kind of. RAG works fine. I mean, if your question is whether RAG will work or not. So here, like, sample text help rephrase the sentence on your own words. So I am using, here you can see Claude 2.0, and here I'm using Claude 3 Opus, right? And you can see that it says like rephrase the sentence on your own words by describing as a type of living, breathing being, or a person whose thoughts and actions are continuously directing towards external physical agents. So Claude 2.0 response is like this, and you can see Claude 3.0 is basically giving much more matured answer, and I think it's far better than this. So and how to use it? You can actually go to extensions, and you can set the Claude for what with your API. So once you set the API, Anthropic API key here, so place the API key, and that's it. It's ready. And then you can just pass the prompt, and the format is you provide the equals to Claude. So if let's say if I have to write it, I'll just write Claude, and I'll pass the prompt. Okay, and with that the model name, let's say Claude 2.0 or something, and then you provide that the hyperparameter, like, sorry, so just a moment. Yeah. So, and they provide the system prompt if you want to, but it's not kind of necessary. I mean, we can run it without system prompt as well. Okay. And if you want to have, let's say, a prompt template like this, you provide a prompt template. Please precisely copy any email address from the following text and then write them one per line. Only write an email address if it's precise. So now you can see that I am providing a text format and providing some of the email IDs. It's basically PII removal. And you can actually provide the actual prompt that has a lot of these information. And what you have to do is substitute A12, which is basically I have given the actual prompt, A20, which is my the assembled prompt input here, and A21, which is my input data to be evaluated. And then it gives me the output like this. Okay, gives me the output like this. And you can also provide temperature and all those things here. That's good. I think if some of you are very much not used to Python based coding and want to try out things in Excel, want to evaluate your responses from different models, compare it, this is really good. Good way to go. Okay. So with that, I would like to conclude here, and I can take up some questions, if any questions from anyone. And you guys can connect with me in LinkedIn, and please provide your feedback also about the session. How is it? Is there any new learning happened for all of you, and able to get some insights? So would be happy. And we have been doing this kind of seminars regularly every week, both Sunday, Saturdays. Vivek is really organizing a lot of webinars. You might be following him in LinkedIn, and you'll be able to see what are we doing in this space. Thank you so much. Yes, Salim, sir, बताइए. Salim, you there? Speaking on mute, maybe.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for the session. I think it was, for me, a very learning session, and there were lots of questions that were answered in this because I was doing a little bit of prompt engineering, and I think with this, I feel that yes, it is in the right direction that we are moving both in terms of prompt and then also in terms of integrating with these new modules. Thanks.
Great. Thank you
Thanks a
so
lot.
much. Thank you for the feedback. Appreciate it. Thank you, Sasank.
Thank you. Thank you. Then.
Okay, any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, no, I just want to check your LinkedIn. So you're Indrajit Singh with CellStrat, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? We can. We have 10 minutes. So if anything you want to discuss.
Thank you, Indrajit. Good.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask, what are some of the most open questions right now in language processing? Like, what are some of the problems that are really solvable?
I think every one of us is trying to figure out that web, right? So I mean, while sorry for that kind of reply, but it's a lot of things that are going on, evolving. Probably Vivek, if you would like to add something, on the industries, there are various domains. There are a lot of complex problems.
Sorry, I missed the question. What was the question again?
Yeah, so Vaibhav is asking what kind of problems that are being solved in this area and what would be like kind of futuristic approach to the real world problems of in the industry within using LLMs, right, Vaibhav? That's the question.
Yes. And what are the open problems in this area, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this Gen AI is just starting, right? There was regular computer vision, NLP, machine learning, but Gen AI is kind of about just starting, maybe a year old or so, or 8 months old. So there is a lot of interest, but actual problem statements are not much being deployed. But they're almost every company on the planet is experimenting with how Gen AI could be leveraged for business growth or data mining from their corporate literature or automating workflows, right? Like supply chain optimization, demand forecasting, or critical insight development, stock market forecasting, if you will, right? So people are trying, but it is still very early because the problem with Gen AI is these algos are changing at a blinding pace each week. And state of the art, the goalpost is moving almost every week with the top 10 companies claiming, dominance or the next better LLM in town. So it is moving too fast, and companies are kind of in a bind how to make sense of it and what to do with it. There is FOMO. The CEO and the board of advisors of every company is asking the CEO, "What are you doing about Gen AI?" So the CEO is saying, "What the heck is this Gen AI? First, let me try to understand this." So there is pressure on the CEO and CTO to understand what is Gen AI and how it might disrupt them. I think the killer apps, enterprise killer apps, are still a bit further away. Like the email, corporate email or web, website. So enterprise killer apps are still downstream. So companies are just developing FOMO and experimenting with handful of interns in almost every company. So that's where we are. The killer apps are yet to be discovered.
I just have one word to add to this, one thought, that I think the main problem now is formulation of the problem statement itself. With this new technology,
Absolutely.
the way that you have to
Absolutely.
formulate the problem is going to be very, very different from what we've been doing.
Absolutely. The problem statement is not clear. I'm
Yes,
talking about companies. I mean, individuals are trying ChatGPT. Students are
right.
using it for answering assignments. Teachers are
Yeah,
using for creating assignments and question papers. But for enterprises, the use cases are not clear. Enterprises do have FOMO. So they have asked their CTO to come up with Gen AI use cases and how it might disrupt. There is a
that's
fear.
exactly.
There's a fear in the boardroom that Gen AI could disrupt the business of companies. So that's why there is pressure on the top management to figure out what is this and
Yeah,
how to use it effectively. Rather than being disrupted, leverage it for growth. So
exactly. I mean, I feel that one of the things that has to happen is the people in the main decision making, the company decision making, have to come up and say, these are the problems that we need to solve. First of all, the problem statement has to be very clear from the top, where the domain was this thing connects to the
and it's
technology.
a difficult area to understand and apply.
Yes,
So it's taking companies and management time to get their head around it and come
right,
up with
right, right.
good use cases.
Excellent. And that's what my thought was. That's all.
But when I look at the tech sector in general, I don't see any other area where growth is. There is layoff in tech sector across the board. But AI is one team where hiring is going on rapidly. But finding good AI talent is hard because very few people have hands-on experience with this. Everybody has maybe done a course or done some preliminary notebooks, but very few people are there in market who have commercial grade AI experience. So while there are, everybody is a Gen AI developer, but very few actually have deployed any AI, any meaningful Gen AI.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I come back to my previous this thing, that the problem definition has to change with this new technology, and that has to come from the domain people.
yes,
So
yes. So see, the problem is domain people have to learn Gen AI.
yes,
Let's
yes,
say it's
Yes.
healthcare folks or financial
I
services.
wanted to add this. I wanted to add this on this. The domain expertise is really necessary. I talked to two clients recently, and they were asking me how do I apply this in my. But without domain expertise, you won't figure it out how even Gen
exactly.
AI fits in the company or not. Yeah.
So we are happy to join any calls where we can help with Gen AI product discovery or use case discovery. So we are a very large community of AI scientists, and we have these discussions all the time. So we have a lot of calls with clients in India and abroad where we are discussing the potential of Gen AI.
Yeah. So Vivek, I would be interested in any other discussion if you have in those areas.
Absolutely. So yeah, sure.
Okay.
There's a question, Vivek, from Amrita. Like, I think problems are clear, but what is not clear is how to use it correctly, and what's the scope and limits and security. This is a big question, right? It's not a straightforward question, Amrita, and one webinar is really not sufficient to answer that as well. But
See, two questions I keep getting from the clients. One is that how to secure their data. They are still not clear between the Chat GPT and the enterprise grade LLMs. How to give them that confidence their data is safe. And second, what kind of guardrails can we build?
I will take.
right. Vivek, yeah, thank you. So I think that's a I mean constant problem. Even a lot of, let's say, in 2 years or 3 years back, a lot of banks not willing to move to even cloud, right? Because of their data being going to cloud. Today, that's also kind of going ahead, and I think it's a kind of a matter of time that people or organizations are thinking of using closed LLMs, maybe deploying their own LLM instead of using LLM as a service on cloud, and apply all the engineering techniques to make APIs faster, and then can go ahead with that, right? So that could be one of the other approaches, Nilesh, if the security is too much concerning. So some of the Abu Dhabi and Middle East clients, they are
Mhm.
actually they are using LLMs on premise mostly. So that maybe that's not, I mean, that effective, but that's far better than losing your data, security, and etc. And using LLMs as well, right, on premise.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, or you can have scalable servers on your data center, on your own data center. Set up LLMs there. And that's fine. If you have a data engineering team, manageable team, they can manage it. Don't need to go for AWS or any other cloud for that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And I think they were like, what kind of guardrails, suppose even if we are using public or the entire, I mean, the hyperscaler provided LLMs, what kind of guardrails we need to build in the code so that it's like the output is safe.
So that security concern is a huge area, and I would say there are two or three things that majorly impact. That is, one is at the LLM level, that is model level. If the model is not really been built in such a way that, let's say, Claude is saying that they are in alignment with White House, and they are following all the security red flags, everything that is being given by there is a governing body in the US. They're following that, but let's say there are some open LLMs, they are not really following it. Apart from that, I mean, even though Claude is doing that, but they are saying that you need to use it with concerns and regulatory body approvals, etc., etc. So you put another set of layer or two set of layers that actually validate some of the queries, if it is let's say kind of containing some kind of information, or it is asking for SQL injection, or kind of LLM injection, that where you are trying to retrieve some information, which is proprietary information. Those things you have to put those guardrails as a security, the jailbreaks, etc.
Right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And also, RAG framework brings some sort of safety, right? I mean, RAG,
It
when they
does.
send in context,
It
it
does.
limits the.
It
Yeah.
does, but it also gives, it also kind of opens up a lot of proprietary information to the user, isn't it? Because if you are,
Right.
let's say, you are thinking RAG, it's not
Mhm.
going to the LLM, but it's basically that you are exposing your proprietary data through RAG to the user. Now,
Mhm.
there you need to again put a layer of security that's saying that don't give, answer to these questions, or don't give these information, or probably a particular column result. So you have to do those kind of stuff there.
Correct. Correct.
Very
Yeah.
important. Yes, Vaibhav.
So about sending sensitive data over an API, that is a real problem right now because the recent papers I have read, one of them extracted the training data in under $100, and it was like lots of training data. And one recent paper that I implemented was I extracted the entire projection metrics of LLM via the API. So yeah, so these attacks are getting really out there right now.
Correct. These are real problems. These are real problems that our industry facing, and I think we need to work on those. I mean, this is what after, let's say, somebody has built an LLM, we are using somebody's LLM. Those are the work that remains majorly, and I still feel like a lot of data engineering work that is being done. I mean, apart from the NLP understanding, like what context, how it understand context, what is RAG, what are we doing through vector DBs, right? These are major big understanding is there. But apart from that, you also we have to have a good understanding on the engineering side, where you implement all those stuff, getting good API accuracy, I mean, good API efficiency, performance, etc., etc. Because today, LangChain, what we are facing also, and we see that is a major problem in the industry, that using LangChain, Llama Index, all these are slowing down these API responses. Let's say anyway, all those deployed models, GPT-4 including, 20-second or 15-second is the latency time, depends on the prompt size. And let's say you want to go beyond that, it's not possible. And apart from that, you add vector DVs, LangChain, your vector DV growing over the time. That's adding another 20-30 seconds and going beyond that. So that's a huge problem there, which is still need to be solved, apart from security and all this stuff. Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
any other questions, audience? Very nice presentation by Indrajit. Any final comments or questions? So I have shared the course information in the link in the chat. Feel free to reach out. Live classes for GenAI course will be free, but for certification recording and participating in internship, we'll be charging something, a small fee of $100. So every Sunday, 9:30 a.m., April 7th start. Fine. If you want to enroll, you can use COM10 coupon code. This is a 10% discount just for next 1 or 2 hours. And thank you, Indrajit. Fantastic presentation and very good content. Any final comments before we close this webinar? Okay, thank you for joining.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good day. Join our upcoming webinars.